On December 15th, 37 AD, in Antium, Italy, on this day, Lucius Domitius Ahenobarius was born. His father was a Roman politician of noble family. His mother was Agrian the Younger, sister of Emperor Caligula. His father died of dropsy when he was 3 years old and drifted away from his mother as a result of Caligula's denial of her. During his reign, the mother left her young mother with her aunt. Emperor Claudius took the throne and brought back his niece. He took us to Rome and reunited her with her baby to start from there. In this palace, the greatest stories of cunning and conspiracies will amaze you, as history has amazed from ancient times to the present day. May God's peace and mercy be upon you, my friends. May God accept your actions. In today's story, I will tell you interesting events, and at the end, we will reach a clear truth, but this time it is not poetry, prose, or wisdom, but rather real and exciting events that actually occurred to prove that deception, and murder, only deception, murder, and every leg are born. He will be watered with what he watered, and you will know what I mean, my friends. At the end of this story, I'm going to tell you a lot of the coolest stories from different eras, cultures, and times, so please don't order. Press the like button first to motivate the publication of this content that spreads our rich history more. If you have not followed me yet, press the follow button and do not forget the alarm button to receive a notification so that you do not miss any of these wonderful stories to come. And by the way, and again on his Instagram page, we are approaching 1,000 followers there. You will find exceptional content only for that platform, and we will change a lot of equations. Spread in that world, as we did here on YouTube. The link to the page on Instagram, my friends, you will find it in the description of the video here and in the first comment. Now take a deep breath. Let's start our story. Caligula was then killed, and Emperor Claudius, the brother of Agrippina, took over. However, this emperor was known for his stupidity. Indeed, the Senate approved his inauguration because of his weakness and stupidity. They did not want to repeat the tragedy of Caligula, and I think you will know what tragedy I am talking about. If you saw the story of Caligula in a previous episode on the Agrian channel, The Return from Exile. She was fully aware of her uncle's qualities, and the woman inherited the love of power from her tyrannical brother. Like Gola, she did everything she could to reach power alone, and Emperor Claudius, who everyone thought was the worst, was the means. Agrippina began to get closer to her uncle, and not in the natural way, so she began to wrap her ropes around her uncle, ignoring all Roman customs and traditions, you know what I'm talking about, and entered into fierce competition. With Messalina, her uncle's wife, the end of Messalina was execution after she was able to confirm the charge of treason and adultery before her husband, the emperor. Execution was the fate of the wife, slaughter and dismemberment, the fate of the lover. The way became clear for Agrippina, and her games to control her uncle, the emperor, increased until she was able to convince him to issue an official resolution from the Senate, making their marriage official and legal. Yes, her marriage to her uncle, despite the strangeness and ugliness of this marriage, and even the rejection of it by the majority of the Roman people, and with the completion of the marriage. Agrippina was able to convince the emperor to adopt her son, so she achieved what she adopted. The emperor gave him the name Nero to align with the ruling family, and the adopted son became closer to the emperor than his legitimate son Britannical. His mother intended to show him the appearance of the perfect man and the ideal crown prince, and even approached Octavia, the emperor's daughter, in order to convince her to marry Nero, thus making the possibility of obtaining power easier and more legitimate, so she had what she wanted. Nero married Octavia, and Pat was the leading candidate for the crown. But after a year of this marriage, the emperor fell. A severe illness, and as a result of this illness, the relationship between the emperor and his wife became sluggish. The emperor began to review his actions, and even felt his mistake in neglecting his legitimate son. He began to seek to change this. Agrippina sensed what was happening, and feared that she would lose the dream for which she had sacrificed her life, so she decided to intervene. We turn to a woman sentenced to death, who is known for her prowess in preparing deaf people, so we asked her to use a deadly poison that does not appear after death. In exchange for helping her get rid of the derivative load, she had what she wanted. The matter was done, and it was done. We did it, and it succeeded, so that Emperor Claudius died in 54 AD, and Nero assumed the throne thanks to his mother, who paved the way for him in various ways at the beginning of his rule, specifically the first 2 years. His mother was literally running the affairs of government, and even her portrait was printed alongside that of her son. On the coins minted, but the situation changed 2 years later. Her images ceased to appear, and influence passed to Nero's senior advisors, most notably his teacher, the philosopher Seneca, in 59 AD. Things reached a dead end between the boy and his mother, and signs of criminality and madness began to appear on the emperor, who indulged in a life of amusement, promiscuity, and decadence, like his uncle, Emperor Caligula, so his first criminal acts began. By killing his mother. How's his mother, who did the impossible for him? Yeah, no, it's a murder. It was the ugliest by all ancient and modern standards. He listened carefully to Nero's new friends in the role of God and the orgy. They filled his mind with the idea that his mother was preparing a coup against him. The emperor's soldiers went crazy and decided to issue a death warrant against her. But his advisors advised him to give her the opportunity to defend herself like the rest of those sentenced to death, so as not to arouse anger. For him more, she is, in the end, a mother, and the mother is sacred to the Romans, like other peoples. Nero responded to the request of his advisors and heard his mother's responses and was convinced by them. But after a while his mind was manipulated by his mistress named Poppaea or Poppaea. This woman was very angry with Nero's mother because of her refusal to divorce her son from Octavia and marry her. So she turned him against her and chose him between her and his mother, so he chose the lover. His lover, and he made the decision to get rid of his mother. Nero orchestrated an assassination attempt for his mother by sinking the boat he was carrying on one of her trips at the hands of naval forces. However, Agrina was able to miraculously escape drowning, so the emperor sent soldiers to his mother's palace to kill her directly, killed her with swords, and burned her body, as she pours her curse. Against her crippled son, the people revolted, and the Senate was upset about what happened. But Snake the philosopher immediately intervened to address the issue. He wrote to the Senate telling them of the danger that was facing the emperor and that Agrina was planning to kill him. The Senate reconsidered the issue and then congratulated the emperor on his quick action. The role of mother ended from Nero's life and became obligatory to the mistress. To get rid of now? From the wife, she first persuaded the emperor to divorce Octavia, who in the first place did not need persuasion. Octavia was sterile and did not give him an heir while Poppaea was pregnant with him, so he shot his wife, and this matter aroused the anger of the people and their sympathy for her, so he exiled her to the city of Poppaea. But this was not explained by the pride of his mistress, as she wanted her dead and out of this world. Nero, instigated by Poppy, framed Octavia for adultery. By forcing one of his leaders to testify against her, he immediately issued a death sentence against her, thus ending her life. With lightning speed, Nero plunged deeper into the eclectic life of a god, indulging his belief in being a gifted singer, an acclaimed actor, and a maestro musician. His passion shifted to touring the Roman lands, collaborating with artists, staging performances in bustling streets, and competing for accolades that he, needless to say, always claimed. Amid the rise of discontent, turmoil escalated as rebellion surged, paralleled by Nero's ruthless assassinations. He killed his mistress and the mother of his unborn son. He kicked him in the stomach until he killed her and her son, and assassinated his friend and army commander Burrs. Even his teacher Alcenc was not spared from him. The emperor wanted to eliminate everyone who raised him and helped him, so he put his name on the charge of conspiring against him. He was not satisfied with this, but rather issued a death sentence for him, but in a strange way. He sent his soldier to the old man. He asked them to tell him that he was sentenced to death, and that he was any age. He is the one who will carry out the sentence against himself by cutting his veins. The soldiers besieged the Alcenic palace until the old man cut his veins and killed himself. On the night of July 1864, a fire broke out in the Circus Maximus, which soon spread to the neighboring shops and houses, causing the fire to break out in a large part of Rome and make it. The ruins of history indicated that Nero was in Antium at the time of the fire, and returned dead to Rome to supervise the rescue and relief work. But some historians had another opinion, as they pointed out that Nero was the one who started the fire to be able to build his huge golden palace that he actually built after the fire. But they went to say that this crazy emperor was playing on the strings of his excitement. Reciting verses from the ancient Greek epic Eloperses, he observes the city consume itself in flames, torn between repudiation and endorsement of the act. What was achieved is one thing. Nero built his golden palace on the ruins of the burned neighborhoods of Rome and imposed exorbitant taxes for this purpose and for the purposes of reconstruction, which increased the anger of his people, which led to the outbreak of revolutions throughout the Roman Empire. And raping her daughters, that revolution was successful in its beginnings, but after a while was suppressed and ended by the Roman commander. We also mentioned the rebellion that took place in Jerusalem during what was called the Kingdom of the Jews. The rebellion that continued even after the death of Nero and ended with the siege of Jerusalem and the burning of what is claimed to be the Second Temple in 70 AD. Witness the episode of the Three Temples on my channel, and you will know what I am talking about. Nile continued his obsession with art and bloodbath at the same time. A strange contradiction, isn't it? Because of these acts, brutality and murder began to support the imperial guard and the Roman army. It diminishes for this emperor, who surrounded himself with artists, actors, and other art pioneers, for the Roman Senate to come up with a resolution. Deemed a foe to the populace, Emperor Nero sets himself apart. On June 9th, 68 AD, the deranged artist ruler took his life, uttering his celebrated last words about the artist dying within, concluding the peculiar brief saga of a remarkable Roman aberration. Not at all. And here, my friends, our story ends. The talk is long, and history makes fun of the stories of emperors and kings, some of which we know, some of which are unknown in details, and the story of Emperor Nero is only one of them. A story, a way, a life that carried a lot of madness, cunning, crime, and art. Strange composition, the one that dominated this person's life. Controversy still exists about the validity of what was stated by historians, but the reality is, the story of Nero is the outstanding evidence of the importance of morality and religion in the establishment of nations. A story that shows us that no matter how the days turn, the oppressor will suffer the consequences of his oppression. Certainly, every foot will tread through what it has marched. Today we have many Neros, along with their mothers, mistresses, and advisors in our lives, dear friends. We are patiently awaiting divine justice to console the hearts of oppressed people, people who were remnants over which tyrants' thrones were constructed, yet undeniably every leg eagerly anticipated. He will be watered with what he watered. Right? Don't forget to subscribe and activate the alarm. In the end, honors, you have a lesson in history, and every Thursday we have many stories and stories.